Nirudyashru kalam shanaihi Likantyado mukhi bhumim Padanaka manishriya Uvacha lalitam vacham Nirudyashru kalam shanaihi Likantyado mukhi bhumim Padanaka manishriya Uvacha lalitam vacham Nirudyashru kalam shanaihi Likantyado mukhi bhumim Padanaka manishriya Uvacha lalitam vacham Nirudyashru kalam shanaihi Likantyado mukhi bhumim Padanaka manishriya Vacha lalitam vacham Nirudyashru kalam shanaihi Likantyado mukhi bhumim Padanaka manishriya Vacha lalitam vacham Nirudyashru kalam shanaihi. Word to word translation. Please repeat. Likanti, scratching. Adaha mukhi, her head bent down. Bhumim, the ground. Pada, with her foot. Naka, nails. Mani, gem-like. Shriya, with radiant. Uvacha, she spoke. Lalitam, charming. Vacham, accents. Nirudhya, suppressing. Ashrukalam, tears. Shanaihi, slowly. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace by Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki. Translation. She stood and scratched the ground with her foot, which was radiant with the luster of her gem-like nails. Her head bent down, she spoke in slow, yet charming accents, suppressing her tears. Purport. Devahuti was so beautiful that her toenails appeared just like pearls. And as she scratched the ground, it appears as if pearls have been thrown on the ground. When a woman scratches the ground with her foot, it is a sign that her mind is very disturbed. These signs were sometimes exhibited by the gopis before Krishna. When the gopis came in the dead of night and Krishna asked them to return to their homes, the gopis also scratched the ground like this because their minds were very disturbed. Text 51. Devahuti ruvacha sarvam tad bhagavan mayyam upovaha pratishrutam atapi me prapannaya abhayam datum arhasi. Translation. Sri Devahuti said, "My Lord, you have fulfilled all the promises you gave me. Yet, because I am your surrendered soul, you should give me fearlessness too." Purport. Devahuti requested her husband to grant her something without fear. As a wife, she was a fully surrendered soul to her husband, and it is the responsibility of the husband to give his wife fearlessness. How one awards fearlessness to his subordinate is mentioned in the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. One who cannot get free from the clutches of death is dependent, and he should not become a spiritual master, nor a husband, nor a kinsman, nor a father, nor a mother, etc. It is the duty of the superior to give fearlessness to the subordinate. To take charge of someone, therefore, either as father, mother, spiritual master, relative, or husband, one must accept the responsibility to give his ward freedom from the fearful situation of material existence. Material existence is always fearful and full of anxiety. Devahuti is saying, "You have given me all sorts of material comforts by your yogic power. And since you are now prepared to go away, you must give me your last award so that I may get free from this material conditioned life. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashlakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamulam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yatkripatamahamam vande Shri Gurun Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanyeshwaram Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna. I'll read the translation again. She stood and scratched the ground with the foot, which was radiant with the luster of her gem-like nails. Her head bent down. She spoke in slow yet charming accents, suppressing her tears. Sri Devahuti said, "My Lord, you have fulfilled all the promises you gave me. Yet, because I'm your surrendered soul, you should give me fearlessness too." Chapter title, Devahuti's Lamentation. Hare Krishna. So in this chapter we saw how Sage Kardama, he expanded through his yogic powers a huge floating mansion bedecked with a lot of jewels, having a lot of Gandharva-like maidservants, and they were flying, enjoying the celestial pleasures for so many years. And then, after coming back, he is now ready to leave his home, true to his position as a very responsible grahastha. Panchasa urdhvam vanam vrajet. When somebody crosses 50% of their life, they're supposed to give up all kinds of attachments and go to the forest. Radhanath Maharaj says, in a more practical sense, especially those of us who are not in a position to do full-time devotional service, until we cross 50 years of age, we should do whatever devotional service we can. Once we cross 50, that part-time service, Maharaj says, should become full-time devotional service. And he says, that is Vanaprastha. Because these days, there's not much Vana. If you read reports, you will see, due to deforestation, the size of the forests keep reducing. There's not enough facilities in the forest too. Prabhupada says, trees means there should be either flower-bearing trees or fruit-bearing trees. If they don't bear either of that, Prabhupada says, usually they are very useless. Their wood can be used, but Prabhupada says, trees means they should be either flower-bearing or fruit-bearing. If you take a drive at the outback, you won't come across many flower and fruit-bearing trees lining up the road. If you're lucky to see trees, actually. So, Vanaprastha here doesn't refer to giving up everything and leaving. For us in Krishna consciousness, Vanaprastha means during our life we practice Krishna consciousness and we do devotional service in whatever way we can. So, from that point of part-time devotional service, we take up a lifestyle of full-time devotional service. You can still stay in home. You can still be with your family. You can still have all the comforts. No problem. But from part-time service, it has to go to full-time devotional service. That's the key. So here, Kadama Muni, he was already a great sage. And yet, he is getting ready to give up whatever little he had, and he wanted to go alone. So when he was preparing to go, she is asking him, "My Lord, you have fulfilled all the promises you gave me, yet because I'm your surrendered soul, you should give me fearlessness too." Prabhupada writes in the purport, quoting the famous verse from the 5th canto, "Guru na sasyat svajano sa sasyad, pita na sasyat janani sa sasyad, daivam na tatsyan, nam patista sasyan, nam mochayetya samupeta mrityum." One should never take the role of a guru, of a kinsman, Prabhupada translated, or a relative, or a father, mother, demigod, or a husband, if one is not capable of delivering those who are dependents. And Prabhupada, he gives example also of how even in Vedic times there are instances when somebody didn't perform their role properly and they were given up. Prabhupada says, Bali Maharaj gave up on Shukracharya. Why? Because Shukracharya was asking Bali Maharaj to go against the promise he made to Vamanadev. So Prabhupada says Bali Maharaj gave up Shukracharya. Likewise, Prabhupada says the Dvijapatnis, which we read in Krishna Lila, they gave up on their husband. Why? Because they were stopping them to go and serve Krishna Balram. So they gave it up. Likewise, Prabhupada says an instance when somebody gave up their mother. Prabhupada gives example from Ramayana. Who's that? Bharat Maharaj. He gives up on his mother, Kaikeyi. Likewise, we'll come across people who were demigod worshippers, but upon seeing Krishna, they take his shelter. So in this way, you will come across instances, one instance after the other, where when somebody is not so qualified to award fearlessness, Prabhupada also quotes example of Prahlad Maharaj giving up on Hiranyakashipu as an example of giving up one's father if they are not capable of taking one closer to Krishna. So one should not assume leadership position, or one should not take the role of a leader to have dependents under them if they are not in a position or if they can't deliver them. Such a person should be given up from their leadership position. So Prabhupada says one who cannot get free from the clutches of death is dependent, and he should not become a spiritual master nor a husband. In other words, only those who are either liberated or at least on the path of liberation, only they can take the role of a leader, and they can have dependents who they can actually guide. You have fulfilled all the promises you have given me, yet because I'm your surrendered soul, you should give me fearlessness too. Prabhupada would often quote from 11th canto, Bhayam dvitiya abhiniveshata syad. Bhayam means fear. Where does fear come from? Bhayam dvitiya. Dvitiya means something other than. Other than who? Bhayam dvitiya abhiniveshata syat. Ishan apetasya. Ishan means Supreme Lord. One who is dependent on anyone other than the Supreme Lord. One who is looking elsewhere other than the Supreme Lord. That's the meaning. This verse actually comes just prior to Uddhava Gita, when the king of Videha, or Maharaj Nimi, was visited by Navayogendras. And then Maharaj Nimi, as a very dutiful king, he puts forth the questions. If you read that section, you'll be amazed. He comes, all the Navayogendras come, decorate his assembly. He welcomes them and he says, getting your association is very rare. Please tell me what is the ultimate good. Please tell me how am I supposed to do devotional service. He just cuts to the chase and goes straight without wanting to waste their time. Prabhupada once he said, I don't want too many visitors coming and asking me the same question. Swamiji, how are you? Prabhupada says, whole world knows that my health is bad. Why are you asking me that question? Don't waste my time. I want to focus on the service of my Guru Maharaj, which is translating Srimad Bhagavatam, Prabhupada says. So here you can see Nimi wasting no time. He just asked this question. Please tell me what is the ultimate good for humanity. And then in answer to that, one of the Yogendras, Kavir, he starts to glorify devotional service. And you'll come across many key verses in that section. So he says, first of all, that fear comes from Bhayam Dvitiya. Dvitiya means something other than, like Dva, like dual. Rather than focusing on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, if somebody shifts their focus to anything other than the Supreme Lord, then Bhaya will come. What's the solution to that? He says, Bhakti Ekaya Isham, Guru Devatatma. One should take shelter to the path of bhakti. One should worship the lotus feet of the Lord. Prabhupada says one gets incalculable amount of benefits by worshipping the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. So the cause of fear is when one shifts one's focus away from the Supreme Lord. Fearlessness means to take one's focus back to the Supreme Lord. And how is that bhakti supposed to be worshipped? In the same section you will see. He says one should engage 6 aspects of our existence in worshipping the Supreme Lord. Kayena vacha manasendriyerva buddhyatmana va paratasvabhavat karoti yatyat shakalam parasmai narayanayati samarpayetat. Kayena, one should engage one's body. Kayena vacha, speech. Manasa, mind. Manasendriya, buddhi, intelligence. Indriya means senses. Buddhi, atmana, one's pure consciousness. 6 things are needed to practice bhakti. Kayena vacha manasa indriyerva buddhi atmanava paratasvabhavat. One should, based on one's own nature, swabhavat, should engage all of these different aspects of us. Body, mind, speech, senses, intelligence, and consciousness. Everything we should focus in serving the Supreme Lord. And when we do the service to the Supreme Lord, how should we feel? That I'm the greatest devotee here doing so much service? Tulsi Maharani is the greatest devotee. Tulasi means one who is without comparison. Like we study in Tamishwaranam Paramam Maheshwaram Tam Daivatanam Paramam Cha Daivatam Patim Patinam Paramam Parastad Vidamadeham Bhavaneshamitam Natasya Karya Karanam Cha Vidyate Natat Samaschabi Adhikashta Drishyate Natat Shamasta Adhikas. There is no one equal, Na Sama, Na Adhika. There is nobody greater. So this is the verse that glorifies about the Supreme Lord. Similarly, Tulasi means one who is without comparison. She is the greatest devotee. We have Krishna Tulsi Mataji, who has been serving for 37 years. A while ago, I calculated how much service she had offered just for Tulsi Maharani. It came to close to 38,000 hours. 38,000 hours. 38, not 38, not 380, not 3,800. 38,000 hours. This is cutting down on the transportation time. Cutting down on the evening 6:40 cooking she was doing. Where is our comparison? I was thinking her spiritual master has given her a very nice name. Krishna Tulasi Devi Dasi. So much service. No comparison. There's no other devotee that we know of who served so much Radha Gopinath. So when we serve Navayogendras, they say, Kaya Navacha Manasendriyarva Buddhyatmanava Paratasva Bhavad Karoti Atya Chakalam Parasmai Narayana Iti means this is for Narayana. Whenever we do any service, we should say, this is for Narayana, this is not for me. This is not for me to feel so proud. This is not for me to feel so great. Samarpayetat. One should offer to Supreme Lord saying, this is for Narayana. When we do Homa, every time we offer oblation, let's say we offer for Narsinghadev, we say, Idam Narsimaya, Idam Namama. This is for Lord Narsinghadev, Idam Namama. This is not for me. This is for Supreme Lord. Or Idam Krishna, Idam Namama. Idam Radhika, Idam Namama. This is for the Supreme Lord. So what service we do matters, how we do matters, with what attitude we do matters. Everything he encapsulates just in one single verse. What we do devotional service. How we do, we engage all the 6 aspects of us. In what quality do we do? Narayana. This is for Narayana. This is not for me to prove anything to anyone. My Guru Maharaj says in one place, if you want to feel, whenever you think any pride comes, you always think how much Goswami served. Like for us, we are very fortunate, we don't even worry about thinking Goswamis. We have our own Krishna Tulsi Mataji. 38,000 hours. That's not the recent figure, by the way. And I didn't even include the service he did in deity department cooking for Radha Gopinath for those many years. So our mood should always be to offer service to the Supreme Lord for His pleasure. And we feel satisfied just by doing the service. Prabhupada says that's the proper attitude of a servant. When Prahlad Maharaj was offered boon by Narsinghadev, Narsinghadev says, ask anything. Prahlad Maharaj says, my Lord, if a servant is actually offering service to a master thinking that he will gain something, And a master, after getting the service, thinks I can award the servant this way, then Prabhupada says, or rather, Prahlad Maharaj says, then such a master is not a master, such a servant is not a proper servant. Master means Swami, Lord. So the servant serves the Lord out of his love, and that is it. And be satisfied just for the opportunity he or she is given to serve the Lord. Fearlessness. If one offers service to the Supreme Lord with that consciousness, then fear will go away. Normally when we study in Shastras, we see avidya is the cause of fear, correct? Bhayam, dvitiya, abhiniveshata. We take our focus away from Krishna. We take our focus away from Krishna and we repose that focus. We rest that focus on an identity which is not true, which means we are the body. That's become because of avidya. When the focus is actually taken away from Krishna, fear comes. And along with the fear, avidya comes. Or rather, along with avidya, fear comes. When we are mistaking something else is going to give us happiness, rather than being in the service of the Lord, when that focus is taken away from the Lord and shifted away to anything, at that point, fear comes. Why is the fear coming? Because of avidya. Because of lack of knowledge, we are thinking, if I shift my focus away from Krishna and focus on something else, I'll feel happy. So then what's the cure? Normally we hear, you just gain knowledge, and then what will happen? You'll go back again, correct? Is that true? Not necessarily. Bhagavatam itself warns us that. Just because we study avidya is the cause of fear, so if somebody concludes that, okay, all I have to take is purchase some books, go home and sit and read, will that fix the problem? Avidya is gone. Are there people who are with knowledge but still don't surrender to Krishna? Yes. Mayavadis. So knowledge is there, but the knowledge has to be qualified. So mere knowledge alone cannot award one fearlessness. Abhaya Charanara Vinda. Prabhupada's name that was given to him by his father and mother was Abhay Charan. When Prabhupada was awarded first and second initiation by his spiritual master, together, same initiation. At that time, his spiritual master adds Aravinda at the end. Abhay Charanaravinda, that's Prabhupada's initiated name. Abhay Charanaravinda Das. Prabhupada's original name was Abhay Charan. So if you want to be if you want to be free from fear, then knowledge alone is not enough. What does Krishna teach us? In Bhagavad Gita, Daiviyesha Gunamayi, Mama Maya Duradyaya, Maamevaya Prapadante Maya Metam Tarantite. Knowledge has to be there, but with that knowledge, what's the pinnacle of knowledge? Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Sudurlabha. If one is actually in knowledge, Bahunam Janmanamante Jnanavan. If one is in real knowledge, what will such a Jnanavan do? Vasudeva Sarvamiti. They will accept Krishna as the Supreme Lord and they will go and surrender to Krishna. At that time, Krishna will award fearlessness. So when we say avidya, that also needs to be qualified. It's ignorance, but it also means lack of surrender along with that ignorance. Because of ignorance, we are not surrendering. So avidya doesn't mean, I don't know, 2 verses in Bhagavad Gita. That's not avidya. Avidya, as how we understand to what Shastras say, are 2 different things. Generally, we think avidya means, somebody who's an illiterate in Shastra. Prabhupada says, doesn't matter. You don't need to be even a literate. Have we got devotees Mahabhagavats who are illiterates? Many. Even Valmiki, there was no instance of him going to Gurukul. Have you heard it any time? No. Gajendra? No. So many instances. The dog who was part of Shivananda Sena's party, Kalia, snake only. So, how we perceive knowledge and what Shastras mention as knowledge are two different things. Knowledge means to understand everything is for Krishna's pleasure and acting accordingly. That is real knowledge. One may not be in a position to read and write. In India, generally, if you see the census, how they calculate somebody as a literate or illiterate is, if you are able to write your name, then if you are able to write your name in your mother tongue, then you are considered literate. Generally, you will come across, literacy rate of a state. I think Kerala is the greatest. Literacy rate has so many percentage. If you look at the criteria is very, very small. You should be able to just read and write your name. If you can do that, then yeah. Used to be like that. They may have changed. But that's not real literacy, so to speak. Real literacy here refers to understanding who we are, understanding who Krishna is, and then taking his shelter. Then if we do that, then there won't be any fear. So here when Mother Devahuti says, you should give me fearlessness too, she is not asking for some comprehensive health insurance. She is not asking for, some CCTV cameras here, give me a good building, a nice fort, so I'll be fearless. We'll understand about her position shortly when she starts to put forth the questions to her son Kapiladev. Then we'll understand her position, what fearlessness she is talking about, and who she is asking for. Definitely not for us, not for her, rather, but for all of us. Whoever who is born in material world, to favor them, she asks the question. Just like Arjuna, he asked the question on behalf of all of us, for the benefit of all of us. So fearlessness comes from knowledge, and along with the knowledge comes taking complete shelter of the Supreme Lord. Normally, when there is some need, we turn towards Krishna. That's natural. So somebody who is in distress, they are turning towards a Krishna. It's still considered a bhakti, but not pure devotional service. Why? Because there is a problem in that master-servant relationship, correct? There is an expectation there. I'll come back to Krishna Tulsi Mataji. Why do we water Tulsi Maharani every morning? To get bhakti, to be free from sins, correct? In other words, to protect ourselves. Why does Krishna Tulsi Mataji serves for 40,000 hours? To protect her or to protect Tulsi Maharani? To protect Tulsi Maharani. If you call what we perform as bhakti, what should we call her performance as? We actually water Tulsi Maharani. You think about it, right? Early in the morning, what do you think? You take 2-3 spoons and you pour it and you think you are a great devotee, right? Correct? Isn't that what we think? Great devotee. You see the difference? Our bhakti is still based on whatever we think is actually good for me, Prabhu. We'll invent a lot of vratas. We'll invent from so many things, or rather discover. There's nothing to invent. Invent means total speculation. We'll discover many things from Shastras just to feel more secure. But then real bhakti means to do things what Prabhupada wants. To do things what Radha Gopinath wants. To do things what Tulsi Maharani wants. That is real bhakti. We are starting somewhere, long way to go. And now you think, somebody served 40,000 hours, 38,000 hours, not for themselves. That's scary, right? Because we haven't even started there. If you are thinking, your mind may be thinking, okay, Mataji has done 38,000 hours. How much have I done? Last 10 years? Okay. No, we still don't get the point. 38,000 hours, she has come, spent time to protect Tulsi Marani. How much time have we spent genuinely for the pleasure of Radha Gopinath? We have to take that and compare with that 38,000, which, as I said a while ago, currently easily it would have been another 40 to 43,000. Tulasi means one who is without comparison. So fear comes from when we shift our focus away from Krishna. But then fearlessness comes when we perform bhakti using our body, mind, speech, senses, intelligence and consciousness. And performing bhakti, doing devotional service with the proper attitude, this is for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. Mataji's 38,000 hours falls in that category. How many hours can we really count? Very, very few, if at all we can, if we dare to. So if we do this, then Navayogendras or Kavi, he says what benefit we get. What benefit we get? He says, if somebody performs devotional service like that, then such a person, first of all, will be free from illusion. Davan nimilya va netre. Nashkelan na patediha, it's given. Such a person, first of all, will be free from illusion. And even such a person, Davan means running. Such a person runs. Nimilya va netra means eyes, nimilya means closing. Such a person, even if he or she runs with their eye closed, naskelan, they'll never trip. Na patediha, they'll never fall either. Patit, that patet. That's the benefit. If we perform devotional service with full focus, with the proper attitude, then what will happen? This life will be very peaceful. We don't need to fear. We can walk with confidence. We can confidently practice bhakti, knowing very well that I'm going on the proper direction. I recently read a quote forwarded to me, and it said, what matters is the direction, not the speed. That is okay. But what Prabhupada wants us is direction as well as speed, correct? The quote said, what matters is the direction, not the speed, which means as long as you're going in the proper direction, it doesn't mean how fast you go. But Prabhupada's instruction to us is, he wants us to go in the proper direction as well as the speed. Once, one devotee actually asks Prabhupada, when he visited a temple, Prabhupada, there are people who come, they chant with us, take prasad, do some service and they go. But when we ask them to take a Krishna consciousness more seriously, follow 4 regulative principles, chant 16 rounds, they are not very serious. Then Prabhupada says, you see, our process is to finish up this conditioned life of birth and death in this life itself. Which means we want to be with Krishna as soon as we die. But if somebody wants to take up many lifetimes, that's a different thing. So Prabhupada wants us to be fast as well, which means direction matters, speed also matters. We should never think, I have a lot of time, I can think about it later. Many times when we actually do devotional service, pride comes. And many times, pride, if it comes just for ourselves, in one sense, it's okay. Okay means it affects only us. But many times when we do devotional service, it affects others. That is dangerous. Because offense can seriously stunt the growth of our bhakti lata. Like simple thing, we come to the temple, we see mats thrown everywhere. We may think it's very innocent. First of all, it shows lack of consciousness, lack of Radha Gopinath's consciousness. We have our Supreme Father and Mother here. They are the king and queen of this temple. When they look, how do we want to present the temple room? Now, from a new visitor side or other devotee side, when somebody walks in through the temple room and this is what they see, what will that do to their consciousness? Now, if it affects somebody's consciousness, will that come under aparad? Absolutely, because we also contributed. Correct. When we take Charanamrita, we spill everywhere. It's sticking. We don't even bother to clean up. Next time, some other new visitor, guest, or any other devotee comes, they walk, sticks. Is that going to affect their consciousness? Absolutely. Does that come under aparad? I think so. Sometimes we have devotees standing there and praying. We are sitting here in the temple room and talking loud. Does that disturb the devotee's consciousness who is offering prayers? Yes. Does that come under offense? Absolutely. If somebody is standing in front of Radha Gopinath and praying, at that time, we even play kirtan louder rather than putting it on your headphone. We play even lectures louder, affecting someone else's consciousness. Is that offensive? Absolutely. How will we feel if we are talking to our friend and somebody else on one of our ears? Because that's exactly what's happening, correct? Radha Gopinath is there, somebody is offering prayer, pouring their heart out. We never know in what circumstance everyone is coming to the temple, correct? We don't know what disturbed state their mind is in. We don't know. If we can't help, least we can do is at least don't make other people's life difficult. Everything matters. Yes, it is true. Kids, they are innocent. They like to play. They like to make noise. Kids, until they come to a certain age, it's in Mahabharata, they don't take the karma. Is it karma free totally? No. For everything which the kids do, who takes the karma? Little learning is a dangerous thing. If we think kids can actually make noise, there's no karma involved, everything is free. No. If they make noise and it disturbs someone else's bhakti, kids are innocent, they won't take the karma, but the parents of the kids will take the karma. So we have to be conscious of everything. That's why that famous saying goes, right? A little learning is a dangerous thing. If we think only one half, okay, they are just innocent kids. Yes, but would you like to take the karma as a parent? I wouldn't want to. If the temple room is actually dirty, would we want to take the karma being a member of this community? No. Then that means it's everyone's responsibility. We have to pick up the mats and put. If the temple is dirty, temple means every inch of space of 180 Falcon Street. Not just the temple room here. If somebody has actually parked the car and knowingly we go and block that, will that affect somebody's consciousness? Of course it will. Is that good? No. That means we have understood bhakti wrong. Everything matters. There can be so much violence in one's speech alone. What to speak of? These are all things which are done innocently, without even having any, to give benefit of doubt, without even having any malintention. Even all of this comes under Vaishnava Aparad. What to speak of when we voluntarily criticize others? So bhakti is a very, very serious thing. If we practice bhakti, we have to be very, very conscious. What level are we in? That is why association matters. Who we associate with. What is the quality of the devotee who we are associating with? When I am associating with the devotee, is my appreciation for devotion increasing? Is my spiritual energy increasing? Is my optimism in my life increasing? That should be the question. And that should be the yardstick with which we should measure the value of such an association. So, Shastras, they repeatedly emphasize not just performing bhakti the way we like, that is okay, but most important, the quality of offerings we actually do. Many times, we do very little bhakti, and that bhakti also just for protecting ourselves. I'm coming back again. Krishna Tulsi Mataji served 40,000 hours only for pleasure of Tulsi Maharani. With not much support, in extreme weathers, without taking a break, no support, no plan B, nothing. She also has a body, everyone has headache, everyone's health goes bad. At least in my experience, dealing with Mataji, since I joined the ashram, I have never seen her calling a Sikhi, saying, Prabhu, I'm not coming. I'll tell you something interesting. Many times, if she gets a little late, she will call, Prabhuji, it's getting hot, can you please quickly sprinkle some water? And sometimes if I water a little more, she'll get upset. She would come and ask, Prabhuji, if you water all of them, then what will I do? After serving for 40,000 hours, she still thinks she hasn't served anything at all. Where do we stand? Mahat sevam dvaram ahur vimuktes. Serving such devotees, that's the greatest fortune. Getting the association of such devotees, that's the greatest fortune. Otherwise, what we do as bhakti, it's actually not bhakti. We are doing something to just either tick the box or to just to protect ourselves. No comparison with the bhakti which devotees like Krishna Tulsi Mataji makes or does for the pleasure of Radha Gopinath. So let's try to educate ourselves that in bhakti, quality of devotion matters. And whatever that we do innocently, quote unquote, will still get us punished. So as parents, it's our responsibility to make sure temple is peaceful, because people come from so many different walks of life. People come with a disturbed mind. They want to come here to have a peaceful experience. I've seen many instances, people randomly, people just come sit here and cry. How many of you have seen in this temple room? Just people seated? We'd never know. And then what do you want them to hear? Some loud speech at the back, just because we are doing service? Some loud kirtan because you are feeling so ecstatic that day? Or even a loud lecture of our favorite speakers? That's a very immature way of practicing bhakti. Proper way of practicing bhakti is what Krishna Tulsi Mataji does. No criticism. Nobody even knows that she existed. Very few devotees know about her contribution. We can even go on to say, greatest devotee of ISKCON Sydney Yatra ever. No comparison. Nobody can even dream about going anywhere closer. Vaishnava is like a salt. Sri Vaishnavacharyas say that. Salt gives taste, but it's not seen anywhere. That's a real Vaishnava. Not we do little service and take 20 selfies and then post it. We are not satisfied with doing service ourselves. So to derive more pleasure, we tend to actually show off more. Savai pumsam parodharmo yato bhaktir adoksache ahaitukya pratihata yayatma suprasidati. Unconditional and unmotivated bhakti only will give us full pleasure. Yayatma suprasidati. Only such bhakti is capable of giving pleasure. If we seek attention, if we seek glorification, then such bhakti will not give us pleasure. So let's be more conscious that this is a place we have our temple rebuild project team working tirelessly to get the design done, design approved. But then part of that rebuild is also rebuilding our own bhakti also. Mama Mana Mandire. What temple do we have in our heart? What's the state of our consciousness? Let's start to take care of what Krishna has already given us, Gopinath has already given us. That way, when Krishna gives us a bigger temple, we'll be in a much better position to do. So now is the time to prepare. Otherwise, even after we rebuild the temple, within a week's time, we will trash the whole place again. Let us understand the way to actually practice bhakti is not based on popularity. It's not based on what we think is right. Let us practice bhakti and let our enthusiasm is bhakti doesn't, even unconsciously, become a stumbling block for others to perform their bhakti. If a kid loudly cries, wails, makes noise, let us understand it is disturbing another 20 devotees or 20 people who are visiting the temple. If I throw rubbish, if I serve prasad in the restaurant, if I spill something down, let us understand 10 people are going to stamp on it and another good size of area of this temple is going to get dirty again. Let's be conscious. If I park my car just behind someone blocking theirs, let us understand Krishna is going to accept our prayers. Let us have some consistency in our practice and the reciprocation that we expect from Krishna. Prabhupada says in bhakti, in many times, it just needs common sense. So let us understand, let's not try to outsmart. We cannot outsmart Krishna. Let us take the responsibility and let us keep this temple as an oasis. So that, be it devotees, be it new guests, be it even atheists, when they come, let them go through that transformative experience. Not a very unforgettable experience, quote unquote. I'll stop there. Any questions or comments?
Touched upon knowledge. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Knowledge being prerequisite to consciousness, thereby developing abhya, fearlessness. How does that apply when we take the story of the Narada Mahamuni going to the cobbler and the Brahmana? Can we say that the cobbler has developed the knowledge?
Absolutely.
Thereby,
Even though, even material sense, I think you nailed it. Even though in material sense, he is counted as illiterate. In material sense, he may not be able to read right. But the faith, that's why I mentioned how Shastras see our literacy to what we all generally accept as literacy are two different things. Krishna in 13th chapter, he lists 20 different items of knowledge. 13.8 to 12, Amanitvam, Hadambitvam, Ahimsa, Shanti, Rajavam, starts with humility. You read anywhere where, if there is a mention of Sanskrit knowledge, you read in those 20 items of knowledge, is there anything that says how nicely you can read, how nicely you can write? None of that is true. Prabhupada says these 20 items of knowledge, people may think, whenever knowledge means, people may think about how expert one can manipulate this material energy. This is general understanding, correct? Somebody we call a scientist. For what? Atma Vidya? Absolutely not. How nicely they can manipulate one of the 24 items, not even 24 items, it's only Panchabhuta they can. Of that ether, they don't have much knowledge of. It's only earth, water, fire, air, mainly these four. But there is another 20 items. And then 25th item is there, which is Atma. So Prabhupada says, generally, knowledge, somebody in knowledge means we tend to think that whoever who is expert in manipulating these items, they are the ones who are so expert, who are glorified as being in knowledge. But Prabhupada says the material understanding of knowledge binds one to this material world. So whoever who can manipulate this, what will they do? They are not going to do anything Krishna conscious, so they will bind themselves more and more and more. Whereas Prabhupada says, if you carefully study those 20 items of knowledge, one common thread across all of them is, each one of them is capable of liberating the soul from this material world to spiritual world. So coming back to your question, the cobbler is in knowledge of items that can liberate him out. Brahmana, even though he externally had studied the Vedas, the knowledge which he acquired bound him to this material world. That's the whole crux of that story, right? Vishnu says, you are going to take birth again, which means he's already bound. Which means, rather than developing bhakti, by the way, of these 20 items of devotional service, Prabhupada actually singles out in the purport, Bhakti Avyabhicharini, Mam Chayo. How does it go? Avyabhicharena Bhakti Yogena Sevate. So, Bhakti Avyabhicharini in that verse. Actually, it says Bhakti Avyabhicharini, Krishna says. So, of these 20 items of devotional service, Krishna says, or Prabhupada says, this item where Krishna actually mentions about Bhakti Avyabhicharini. Vyabhachari means a prostitute, one who goes here, there. Avyabhichari means one who is serving one's own husband very, very sincerely. Krishna is our supreme husband. All of us are his energy only. Last class, I think we were discussing on that. We all think we are Purusha. We are not Purusha. Purusha means the enjoyer. Krishna is the enjoyer. Technically, we come under energy only. Tatastha Shakti only. We all are coming under Shakti. So, when Maicha Ananya Yogena Bhakti Avyabhicharini, that's how it goes. So this particular quality, Prabhupada says, item of knowledge is the most important of those 20 items of knowledge. Because this one single item will catapult one out of this material world and take one directly to spiritual world. So knowledge means it has to be those items, but then it has to liberate one. Whereas Brahmana, after studying all of that, all he had was just pride. It will bind. Pride comes under avidya. So it's not real knowledge. Whereas cobbler, even though externally he may not be able to read, he still ticked all the boxes for those 20 items of knowledge. So that's why how Shastras, Gajendra ticked all the boxes. So how we understand something as literate and how